All right, and we are live with Writing Sprint Wednesdays. Back to Wednesdays. I had a whole week off last week. My brain's a little discombobulated, but we are back with regularly scheduled programming on this lovely August 6th, 2025. As always, we have 3 sprints on deck today with 5-minute breaks in between. The first one starting in 4.5 minutes by my timer, and we'll get right into it. But let me say hello to whoever's in the chat with me here. NJ, not sure if you're hanging around today, but you wanted to say hi, and I appreciate it. Athena, pretty sure it's the earliest you ever jumped in. Well, welcome. Renee here with the early crowd as well. Oh, I just noticed that Athena and NJ, those timestamps are over an hour ago. I appreciate the dedication. And Renee coming in just before noon to get restarted on that no 0 days after crushing it in July. I'm on a no 0 days kick myself, mostly with revisions, but any progress towards your goal counts for no 0 days. Doesn't always have to be a lot of writing in one day. JM Brown, hello. Aaron, hello. Erica, hello. David, hello. All right, so I dropped the first link to the sprint in the chat, but it is below me as well, and you will find links to the other sprints at the top left of each sprint. But of course, I'm going to drop them in the chat before they start. J.M. Brown asking, does anyone have any experience writing web novels or serialized novels? I'm working on one and thought I'd see what people think of them. We just did a workshop for W Academy on series writing, and serialized novels are a cool one, like a little episodic kind of novel. Or you could go the serial route where it is just one continuous story. There's not a lot that I can give advice on here, and it looks like you're looking for specific feedback on stuff. So you can ask in Dabble at W Campus, w.com. See if anyone's willing to take up that mantle and provide some feedback on that. Before I forget, after we are done sprinting today, dropping a link in the chat now. Hank and Abby are going to be, I think it's both Hank and Abby. It's at least Hank. I think Abby's joining. Are going to be chatting with Nick Cole. And Nick is a very impressive author who has garnered like this ravenous fan base that just devour everything that he writes. And so they're going to be talking about maintaining your audience. They're going to be talking about engaging your audience. They're going to be talking about direct sales. All of that super important, whether you're an indie author or not, or whether your goal is indie publishing or not. Very important conversation. So I'm really, really looking forward to that one. And yeah. So that's out of my noggin before I forget it, because I am prone to forget stuff. Anyone who knows me in real life knows that. I'm going to drop the link to the sprint again, just so you don't have to scroll up to find it. Julia, hello. Working on the course on finishing your drafts. Oh, I like that one. However, it was, I think, the first one that I did. And so I was a little uncomfortable, a little awkward with it, but the content is really good. If I can toot my own horn. All right, let me know what you're working on today with our sprints. For myself, you're going to be seeing me do some brainstorming as I work through this outline for this urban fantasy series that I'm planning. I just finished the revisions for like the final beta feedback incorporation and proofread for my novella as of yesterday. Yeah, during the first sprint yesterday, I joined on the other side of the screen. And I sent off requests for editors. I got in contact with my cover artist. So I'm really excited for that. And now we're just working on some new stuff. I need a little creativity interlude before I start revising some other stuff that's in the backlog that needs revising. But hey, we're here to write. ABD boot camp, howdy to you too. And Ben, you're breaking story today. All right. All right, excellent. So let me make sure my music is queued up. I got that lo-fi going on in the background. If you've been with me before, you know that that's the kind of music I like writing to. If you like writing to music or to white noise or to a show or just in absolute silence, I'd love to hear about that too. I know some folks here have a preference, but I know we have some new faces. Well, throwing this up because the time is about to say go, and I'll see you all in 20 minutes. Happy writing. All right, and that is our first sprint of the day done. How did everybody go? Let me know in the chat there. I got 534 words written in this brainstorming. I'm going to go ahead and drop it into our next sprint there so that I have it for me, because anything you put in before the sprint time starts doesn't count towards the word count. So you get a more accurate view of what's going on. I'm also going to drop this link in the chat there so that's easy for you to get to. But again, it's always in the top left of the sprint that we're working in to get to the next one. And okay, here we go. Let's see what's going on in the chat. Aaron added 43 and deleted about half of that. That's how it goes. Renee got 171 words. Excellent. David 364. Awesome. And Athena 396 in this one. A bit of a slow start for Athena, but that's a-okay. The first one's always a bit of a slow start for me unless I've been doing some writing ahead of time or some brainstorming ahead of time. So you got to get those creative juices flowing. I hate that term, but but we're gonna stick with it. JM Brown got 499, just one away from 500, but very impressive. Ben got 370, fantastic. Ben, I know you're newer to our sprints. How have you been finding them? I know personally, I like doing sprints, I like doing non-sprints, but I am most productive in sprints. Like that's how I get my book written, and then supplement it with some more casual writing sessions here and there. All right. Kyla's editing a section, so my word count is off, but I got about halfway through. That's fantastic. Awesome, awesome. And let me know what it is everybody's working on. Like I said, I'm planning out this urban fantasy series. The idea is for it to be semi-episodic. I was talking to my better half about this yesterday, and the first three books are going to be like a trilogy, but then it's going to continue on with individual stories and more, two or three parters after that along the same way. So you can't technically jump into book three and understand everything, but you'll find, especially in urban fantasy and some other subgenres, you'll find that structure within an episodic series isn't uncommon. And I want to do that for the first one specifically for reader retention. Get them hooked, get them through the first three books, and then the fourth one, even though it's going to be a different story, same characters, they're going to be into it. Ben, that's fantastic. I'm glad that you're enjoying it. Um, David's still working on your choose your own adventure book. There was one thing I wanted to mention today, and I can't remember why I wanted to mention this, but I thought, I should talk about this in sprints on Wednesday, and that's dramatic irony. This is your dug it for today. Here it comes. Dramatic irony is not ironic in the traditional sense that we believe it to be, but is when the reader knows something that the character does not. And it's really easy to use in third person omniscient storytelling because the narrator knows everything that's going on, right? They're omniscient, but the characters don't. So you can easily say the killer was hiding behind the door when Stacy walked in. Like that's dramatic irony. Stacy has no idea that the killer's there. But you can use dramatic irony outside of third person omniscient as well. And the way you do that is through different perspectives. And so there's nothing wrong with writing a book from only one perspective. This book that I'm planning, it's only going to be from one perspective. However, if you use multiple perspectives, you can use it in a way so that one character learns something in isolation. And then when the other character encounters something that directly connects to what that other character knows, your reader now knows something that the perspective character doesn't. And you can use that to play up the tension and play up the stress and completely mess with your readers. So dramatic irony, one of our tools that we don't talk about a lot because we mostly think about it for third person omniscient, which most people do not write. But if you're writing multiple perspectives, definitely a tool that you can be using to amp up that tension. All right. Let's see what's going on. Rosalinda joined us. Welcome. Danny's also working on an urban fantasy story. Love it. I've never tried writing a book before, so I'm trying not to think about it as a series, but I'm failing. So we just did a workshop for W Academy about series writing. I mentioned that at the top of the show. You know what? We got 30 seconds till the sprint. We can do a little bit of chatting about series in the interim of the next one. Athena, I'm glad you love that. Excellent. Sylvan, great organizing work then. Fantastic. And Jay, welcome back. I'm glad you sprinted to make it to the sprints. I got the joke there. All right. Let me pop this back up on stage. And we have another 20 minutes of sprinting. And I will see you on the other side. Bye for now. All right, and that is our second sprint of the day done, everybody. Make sure you copy and paste your words out. If you are not copying them over to the next sprint, which let's go there. Excellent. We are already there. I'm going to grab the link for this one, drop it in the chat. Let me know how that sprint went for you. There we go in the chat. I got 591 words of planning that time around, and I'm just doing, I mean, I guess we can go through this real quick. And I know we said we were going to talk about series, bear with me. But I'm just doing some jot notes for each chapter, noting, in the 3-act structure where some important parts are. Got to chapter 9, which was my midpoint, and now we're going into the second plot point, and then to the third act. Okay, let me put my face like that. Rosalinda got 348. Excellent. Athena 393 with maybe a couple distractions thrown in there. I get it. It happens. Danny with 237. Excellent work. Okay, let me scroll back up because Danny, you were saying that you've never written a book before, so you're trying not to think about it as a series, but you're failing. And there's no right way to write your first book. The first book I wrote was the first book of a series that I'm not done yet. And I think that you can write your first book as a series. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. However, I frequently wish that the first book I wrote was not the first book of a series, because I learned so much from writing that first book. I've learned so much since then. I learn with every book that I write. I learn every time we do something like this, or a workshop, or a live stream, like educational live stream, I learn whenever I read something. However, I really wish I could go back in time and write a standalone novel before I embarked on writing a 7-part series, because you learn so much more about the craft that you can apply to a series. And the first book, I'm very proud of the first book. I think it's quite good. But if I had known now, or a while ago, or if I had known back then what I know now, or what I knew a while ago, I'd be able to more effectively map out that series and drop in, bits and pieces here and there that make the series more effective, if that makes sense. But you don't need to do that, and plenty of people do write a series from their first book. Plenty of people, just, you have to accept that you're going to keep growing as an author. And so your book 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 are going to be better than book 1, which they should be all the time, but there's pros and cons. Again, that said, it's really tough when you have an idea for a series in your mind not to plan out that series, because it's just so exciting. So take all of that with a grain of salt. If you want to do a series, then plan it as a series, or perhaps save the ideas that you have for the series for a different book 1, and then go from there after you've written this first book. Possibilities are endless. Or actually, there's 2 possibilities: it's standalone or a series. But the things that you can do with the content that you have are near endless. So there you go. That's my little rant for you today. I don't know if that was helpful, and I apologize if it was not. But I'm trying to fit it into like the 4 minutes that I have with you before we start our next sprint. Let's see. Okay. NJ doesn't break up chapters until after you write. Is that odd? It's not the norm, but that doesn't mean it's odd, because odd has a negative connotation to it. Kyla finished the article you were writing for your novel. That's fantastic. Great job. David, 651 words. Awesome, awesome. Erica, 128. Not bad. I agree. I think that's pretty good. And Julie has 1 module or so left in the course. That's excellent. NJ asking, how long is too long for sci-fi? It depends on your audience. YA tends to go shorter. Adult sci-fi can go anywhere from like 80,000 words to 200,000+ words. Right? Depends if you're traditionally publishing or indie publishing. Traditional publishers don't like taking chances on more than 100,000 words for a debut author most of the time. But sci-fi does give you more wiggle room with the length. Let's see. Excellent, Danny. I'm glad that was helpful. Erica, I've had some ideas for standalone, but I'm afraid to pause on my current work. Don't want to lose momentum. That's always tough. Maybe we can talk about that, because I hear the beeping. So you can maybe talk about that for a few minutes afterwards. But here comes our last sprint. Everybody enjoy the next 20 minutes. I'll see you on the other side. All right, everybody. And that is the last of our sprints done for today. Man, this time goes by so quickly. I wish I wish the rest of the workday went by this quickly. All right, I got 577 words of outlining done that time around, and I am just entering the third act, or have just entered the third act in this outline. I'm getting really excited for this book, but right now I'm doing a chapter by chapter outline, and I know where the scene breaks are in it. I'll add that to the plot grid later to flesh it out. But I also want to do at least the major beats of books 2 and 3 in this trilogy within the larger series before I start writing this first draft, so that I can make sure I sprinkle in what I want. And the strategy I think I'm going to go for this one is I'm going to write all the first 3 and then release them within 30 or 60 days of one another sequentially. We'll see. This is definitely going to be a 2026 thing. And I have so much other stuff to get through, but let's see how everyone else did here. Kyla, 477, another evidence article complete for your murder mystery novel. I love to see it. Fantastic work. David, awesome job with 357, and Rosalinda, 382. Awesome. Athena, 605 for a total of 1394. Fantastic. Danny, 156. Awesome job. Erica, another 100 words, but more than you did yesterday, and I love to see that. Kyla, thank you for joining. And I hope you join me again next Wednesday when I'm hosting this. Tomorrow, Hank will be hosting. And before I celebrate everyone else's wins here, I'm just going to drop this link in the chat one more time. That's going to be Hank and maybe Abby. I'm not 100% sure. Chatting with Nick Cole for Indie Summer, talking about maintaining a relationship with your readers and building up an audience that engages with you so you can sell directly to them or hit that bestseller status with your indie books. Let's see what else is going on here. JM Brown got 632, and I know, JM, I missed your 504 from before, so double congratulations on that one. NJ 390 in a side project. It happens. Rosalinda got 730 total today. Fantastic work. And well, he got 263. Good enough for the last 10 minutes. I was going to say, I haven't seen you around here, but I'm glad you could join for some. And 263 words in that 10 minutes is 263 more than you had before that 10 minutes. That's the wins I like to think about. Ben got 389 that time. Fantastic. I love to see that, Ben. And just before we go, Erica mentioned before, I had some ideas for a standalone, but I'm afraid to pause on my current work. I don't want to lose momentum. Is that last part that I want to focus on, that don't want to lose momentum. There are a couple ways that you can approach this, but if you've been to any of my workshops, if you've been to these sprints often, you know that I'm a big goals guy. And so for this, Erica, and anyone else with this, I don't want to say a problem, because I don't think it's a problem to have too many ideas that you want to turn into books whilst working on a series of books. But if you are in this situation, focus on what your goal is. What is it that you want to accomplish? And if what you want to accomplish is finish the series, then you focus on the series. You jot down some notes in a Dabble project in one of your folders or story notes. You save it for later. You can work on it here or there. It can be, your bathroom project. When you have a few minutes to spare, you can jot down some notes on it. But if your number one goal is to finish that series and that's what's motivating you, it's difficult sometimes to ignore this other stuff, but you focus on that. Now, if your goal is to just have fun writing, your goal is to get your first book finished and something is really exciting and it's drawing you away from what you're working on, then maybe you shift your momentum to this other project. You don't lose momentum. You might slow down a little bit per se, but that momentum is still going to carry you through the planning, through the brainstorming, and then into the writing of this new project, if that's what you really want to do. So, yeah, difficult situation. We've all been there, but focus on what you want to achieve, and that will help guide you on where you should write next. NJ, absolutely. I find it difficult to read my own writing aloud because I hate hearing myself read. But it's an important part. It really helps you find those errors in your writing. And well, I'm really happy that you could have joined us. And Rosalinda, thank you for joining. Erica, you're very welcome. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm going to bounce now so I can get a little break before I watch that show with Nick Cole. Thank you so much for joining me, everyone. Thanks for writing alongside me, because I benefit from this as much as you do. Or at least as much as I hope you do. And I really appreciate the accountability and supporting one another here. It's always a blast. Enjoy the show tomorrow. Enjoy sprints on Thursday. Enjoy the show in a few minutes. Enjoy the sprints tomorrow on Thursday. with, I think it's Abby hosting tomorrow, actually. And I will see you all next week. Bye for now, everyone.